Welcome to the Love Life Podcast, hosted by Jack and Sheila Harper. This podcast is about love and passion for life. SaveOne was founded by Jack and Sheila in the year 2000 to help men, women, and families recover after abortion. The Harpers have a real passion to see lives be healthy and flourish so that those lives have a lasting impact on the earth. Join us for the next few minutes as we talk about the subjects that impact our lives and how we can together find and keep better spiritual, emotional, and mental health by loving life. Here's Jack and Sheila.
Welcome, Love Life listeners. We are so excited about this podcast. First of all, because we have a new look, and I'm so excited for the upgrade.
Audio and visual, right?
We're uptown now. We are so excited because we have one of our own on this month, Wendi Rawls. I am so excited for everybody to hear your story. Thank you for joining us. And I've got some notes here that we're going to be reading from. I've jotted down some questions, but we're just excited to have her.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, your expertise and wisdom when you came into SaveOne made all the difference in the world. I have loved all the things that you have added since you've been on with us full time.
Yep. So when is it that you actually started with SaveOne, Wendi?
It was actually 3 years ago. I did my first chapter leader training in January of that year, 3 years ago. So 2021. And where was that? No, 2022. I'm sorry, 2022. January of 2022. And we launched a chapter at our church in Hampton, Virginia, at Calvary Assembly of God. And I just began, on that path. And we were doing a corporate fast at the beginning of the year as a church. And I was praying and I was, just like, Lord, there's something to this. Like there's more. Like I'm happy to do the chapter leader thing, but man, this is really like strumming a chord in my heart. So Sheila, you and I had connected on how my time had gone with my mentor. And so you were like, how'd that go? And hey, we've been wondering, would you consider joining our team? And I was like, and you're like, don't answer no. You got to pray about it because we've been praying and fasting and we just think, that you'd be a really valuable part of our team. It's like, I don't have to pray. I've already been praying. I already know the answer is yes.
Saying that I already have to pray. I know.
That's right.
You had to pray. Just, it just became very clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and we hadn't had any conversations about anything other than just the volunteer role that I had, and so that launched a whole new world of opportunity. And it was just, I can't believe it's been 3 years. It's been awesome.
So you started out as a chapter leader helping people in your church and community, right?
Absolutely. Just started there. And then we started on the process of becoming a chaplain and then a missions associate, and everything just kind of rolled.
Like for those who don't understand or know what we're talking about when we say missions associate, kind of explain that real quick.
Yeah, so I actually have the opportunity to go around. I itinerate and develop my own budget and raise all my own expenses. So I'm a missionary in and of myself with the Assemblies of God, and I get to work for Jack and Sheila. But it's really a win-win, right? All the way around, because you guys get, extra help and extra workers, and we're out there just, involving churches and ministries and leaders in the ministry of SaveOne. And it's not a hard sell, right? Because we're going in and telling people, hey, would you be interested in helping someone find hope and healing? I mean, it's not it's not a hard sell.
Right. And just to clarify, you don't work for us, you work with us.
Right. Yeah.
Together.
Yes, it's true. True story.
Yeah,
true story.
Right. Glad that you're a missions associate. It's an incredible program because we don't have to come up with the budget and raise more money to be able to pay you, but your community is what makes it happen. So I love that.
I have so many amazing donors in churches and people who just rally behind, and they can see, it's evident that when people are walking through the SaveOne journey, their testimony is they become truth tellers, like we talk about all the time. And so then they're just like these explosions of love and grace and mercy. And so, when you keep finding people that need it, and then they keep exploding in those churches, and they're like, wait, what? How do we support you? How do we keep this going? So
Yeah,
it's good.
I love it.
Yep, I love it too. And the thing I love about the support that you get from the different people in churches is that they're partners. It's not just that they're they're not just donors. They're partners in this fight for life with you. And I love it.
Yes. I get text messages. I mean, on the regular, anytime I see, like, if I'm out, because now I'm not at my home church per se, every week. So they're literally, they don't see me in my designated pew. They're looking on Instagram. They're looking on Facebook. Where is she? What's she doing? It surely has to do, with SaveOne. So they're seeing it real time. And I love that. Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So you've had a lot of experience in your young life. I'm just reading a little bit of your bio. Regent University graduate, a licensed minister through the Assemblies of God. You're a chaplain. We talked about that already. And the title that we enjoy is Pro-Life Missionary with SaveOne. I love that. And then also, before you tell us a little bit about your family, I just wanted to say, Wendi, you do an incredible job, and we are so honored to have you with us.
Yes.
So tell us about your family. Okay.
I tell everybody anywhere I go, I'm like, I love this job. Like, it was tailor-made for me. And even if I would not have had the experiences that I had, several years ago, and if I hadn't walked through what I had walked through, I still would want to work with this ministry. I would still want to be involved in doing what I'm doing. I mean, it's an extra blessing that I have like a personal tie to it, but there's nowhere else I want to be. Like, this is it. And I do feel like, that the Lord put these things together. And so I don't even want to think about doing it without the support of my family. They are incredible. Most, everybody knows my husband and I, Tyler, we are coming up on 14 years of marriage. Great. It's a long time. And we have 3 boys. So we call ourselves the Rowdy Rawls because you hear us before you see us. If we're somewhere. My boys are not quiet. They're not laid back. They're just sweet ahead.
I am thoroughly convinced that there is a special place in heaven for moms with more than one boy. Three boys. And I remember telling somebody one time, it's easy. You just have to stay one step ahead of them to keep them alive. It was that was my goal every day.
So true.
Again today. Yep. And there's not too many broken bones and too many stitches. And
I'm telling you.
We put a ring on one of the hospitals here just because of one of my sons.
Designated.
Yeah.
Yes. So our oldest son, Jackson, he's in 5th grade. He's getting ready to turn 11. And our middle son, Camden, is in 3rd grade. He just turned 9. And then our baby boy, Bryson, is 5. So this is the first and only time that they're all in school together. They're all in elementary school. Bryson's in kindergarten. And so it's great. Like, I pull up to the school line and I'm like, okay, bye. Like, everyone. But it's just another chapter in life, and it's been a really beautiful season. So
your boys are precious, and you got
Yep.
And one of the main things that I love about you, not only because we just keep singing your praises and we love them so much, but you love dark chocolate as much as I do, and so that's we have bonded over that.
Yeah, and coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and those two together. It doesn't
so good.
I can't believe it now. So funny. So let's jump right in and let our listeners hear your story, if you don't mind. So can you just kind of give us an overview of the story in your life and what led you to want to be a part of SaveOne?
Absolutely. It's so interesting how much of my story kind of aligns with you guys. And the first time that I heard Sheila speak and she began to share her testimony and being that young adult and just being really lost and broken and hurting. And I was like, oh my gosh,
you can relate
right away. And so I grew up in a Christian home. I'm a pastor's kid, whatever connotation that comes with it, And so I just had the best family. I mean, we're still amazingly close to this day. And my parents are both fully ordained ministers with the Assemblies of God. They've been at the same church for over 30 years, thriving ministry. They taught us to love the Lord. Yeah, I mean, they taught us all the things, right? And growing up, I was involved any way I could be, volunteering and being on all the teams, worship, leadership, nursery team, whatever it looked like. I wanted to be involved and I wanted to help. And I really a real strong passion for the lost. I was truly concerned with people who were dying and going not to heaven, because we were not allowed to say hell in our house. So it was just not to heaven. And, yeah. And I remember my dad, that's one of his favorite stories. Is you were probably 7 or 8 years old in the back seat of the car driving home from church, crying, just really genuinely, how are we going to help them? What are we going to do? We're not doing enough. And he's you're in second grade. It's okay.
It's so sweet. I love that.
Crazy. So, it was a really good foundation. But the problem is that we can't use other people's faith to let that be ours, right? We have to find faith for ourselves and build our own foundations. And so when it became time for me to become an independent young woman, I really wasn't too interested in that whole daily relationship thing. I watched my parents and I thought that what they had was amazing. And I loved how faithful they were. And I watched God move miraculously over and over and over in their life. And I still was just I don't know. And so I remember I sat down with them. I was, all of 17 years old. So totally had my life together. And I just remember being I believe there is a God. I believe in God. I am just not sure that I want this whole daily relationship where he tells me something and then I have to obey it. I'm just not there yet. And it broke their heart. I couldn't even imagine.
Can I ask you a question right there?
Yeah.
What do you think changed? Was there outside peer pressure, or you saw your friends acting another way, or what was it that changed from the second grader who was crying over lost people to now you're 17 and you're wondering I don't know if this is for me?
Yeah. I mean, just real transparency and authenticity, it probably 55% church people. I watched them just backstab and gossip, and there's so much bitterness, and we're just people. We're just human, but church world can get so icky sometimes. And because my family were, the pastors, it just really came into this place where my sister, Angie, and I had to live and lead these perfect lives where we could never mess up. And the expectations were so unrealistic. And when you're constantly striving for that and you are never going to achieve it, then you start to become bitter towards that. And you're this is not what I want for my life. If this is what it is, if this is what Christianity is, I'm not sure that this is for me. And so the other 45%, definitely peer pressure. We got a bunch of teenagers thinking that we know things, right? Walking into our junior and senior years of high school, having to make really big decisions about college and careers. And at this point, who we love and all these crazy things, it just, instead of relying on my faith and letting that become a firm foundation, I just went the total opposite way. I do have to give such accolades to my parents because they understood that I had to find that for myself. Now, they weren't willing to let me get hurt, there's boundaries to this, but they were willing to let me find that on my own because they knew how important it was that if I found it on my own, that it would stick. They had done everything they could. Truly.
And they put the truth in you along the way. So they knew that truth would win in the end.
Absolutely. And it did, right? But there was some scary years. Yeah. So, as I stepped away from a daily relationship with the Lord, and when I say that, it just wasn't a priority. Again, I knew I had such a great foundation. I could not totally walk away from that truth. I could still feel his presence. I knew how to enter in. It's just I was choosing not to. I was choosing to rely so much on just my strength and my abilities. And when I was 19, I found myself sitting alone on a bathroom floor in my dorm room, and I was holding a positive pregnancy test in my hand. It was an unplanned pregnancy, and I was unmarried at the time. I honestly had never, I can't even describe, like I've tried to describe that emotion of loneliness and fear, like those mixed together. I don't know if there's an emotion for that. It was such an overwhelming, just what have you done? And I do think that there's a point to be made here for Christians and for believers. We are not invisible. We have a truth and we have a kind and loving Savior, right?
Right.
But we are not invisible to sin. And if we choose unrighteousness, there absolutely will be consequences. And so I think, that I was just had this whole idea that because I was a pastor's kid and because I had lived such a good life up until that point, that there couldn't possibly be those type of consequences for me. Yeah. Everybody else could have, sex outside of marriage. But if I did it, it was okay. There's no way the Lord would let me get pregnant. Nothing to do with it. My decisions and my choice to disobey and to not come up underneath of those commands, that the Bible is so clear about, is how I found myself in that position. And, I don't ever blame anybody for that. Those were my choices and my decisions. Yeah. However, I do encourage youth leaders and parents and leaders in the church now to talk about these things. Yeah. Not just under the whole idea of purity. Purity is so important. Oh man. And guess what? You have it till you don't, right? Like you can't get it back. So but we can't keep shaming young women and young men into being pure. There's got to be a better way. And I've asked so many leaders, and I'm like, how do we do that? And nobody really has a full out answer yet. But I think it's great to start the conversation, right? And start the thought processes of
that's the foundation, to just start the conversation, start asking the question. And when these kids mess up, have a soft place for them to land.
Yes.
So we're not unknowingly pushing them toward abortion because they don't feel like they can turn to their church. Not that these leaders are putting a stamp of approval or anything like that on these choices, but they're saying, you know what, we recognize that people mess up and it's not the end of the world. There is life after these choices, or if you get pregnant out of, and you're not married or whatever. So anyway, go ahead.
No, absolutely.
Topic for me is that the church has got to be the safe place for kids to turn when they mess up.
Well, and I think that there's such a great opportunity there, right? Yes, you have a teen that walks into your church. It's obvious that she's pregnant and obvious that she's alone. But have we thanked her for choosing life?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, there is something to be celebrated in that moment. No, we don't love how she got there and we can't condone it, right? We have to help her understand that the choices she makes are very serious, right? And that they do have consequences. But we are not her Holy Spirit and we are not her Savior. And I have tried really hard when I go and I speak and I talk to people about this. I'm like, just thank her, love her, and then lead her to the altar, right? Lead her to Jesus. He's the one who does the work.
It doesn't need our help.
No, we don't.
What you were talking about, just love her. And loving someone introduces God into the situation.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It works if we just allow the Holy Spirit to do his work instead of trying to make everything happen the way we think that it should.
Yeah. And I want to, I love this. And I just I'll just say it because if someone right now is watching or listening to this and they don't have a church family or a leader or someone that they feel like they can go to, please reach out to SaveOne, reach out to myself, reach out to Jack and Sheila, because we are here for you. And I know for me, as a young adult sitting alone on a bathroom floor, I didn't text anyone. I didn't call anyone. I honestly, I immediately went into this place of, I am not taking a 9-month walk of shame. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to walk that walk in front of my church family what are they going to say? What are they going to do? What are they going to do to my family? And I just immediately became overwhelmed with all of the what ifs. And instead of reaching out or being brave enough to choose life, I went to a local women's health clinic. Now, at this time, I'm far away from home. I'm at college and I'm over 18, so I'm an adult. And I walk into this clinic and I kind of just see what the options are. And so what is presented to me is a solution to a problem that I have. And the answer is a 2-pill process where I take 1 pill on site and then the next pill within 24 to 48 hours. And I caused myself to have a miscarriage. I did confirm that I was 5.5 weeks gestation at one of the appointments. And I just did not see any other way. I didn't feel like I could move on. I felt like I believed it was a solution. I believed if I did this and it went away, that it would be done. And I would never have to worry about it again. I wouldn't have to tell anybody about it. It would just be over.
Could not have been more wrong.
Complete opposite.
Yeah.
So that moment and experiencing those things is what launched me into a 15-year battle with depression, shame, guilt, and sorrow, and anger. Oh, my word.
Wow.
I mean, to the point where my parents are asking me, are you okay? You just seem like yourself. Like you're just so angry. And I'm like, I'm fine. Cause I don't want them to know, can't admit that I've messed up and done this horrible thing, and the full realization, is now on me after the fact. And there's, again, no going back. And it was it's just hard to explain, right? Like it's just a self-imposed prison. We talk about that a lot at SaveOne.
Yes.
Because nobody put those things on me. I put them on myself. And I made myself live in the background, and I chose not to let people get close. And I really did. It was a big difference in my personality, leaving from going to school and coming home from school, because I didn't want anybody to know. Nobody.
Wow.
So one of the first times that I really was able to share this story, I was sitting with a mentor, and she was asking me, Wen, what's your story? Like, tell me who you are. And the Holy Spirit was like, you got to tell her. And I was like, no, I don't. He was like, yes, you do. I was like, no, I really don't, though. And I found courage to share with her. Now, at this point in the story, I'm 12 years removed from that moment. I have rededicated my life to the Lord. I have, decided, okay, maybe I really do want that relationship.
Yeah.
Things were so much better when I was walking with him.
Off a cliff. Yeah.
So I think I'll go back to that and really started reading my word, tried to get back involved. Again, I'm very careful in how I'm involved and where I'm involved and how people know, what they know and how they know about me.
Okay.
But I am serving the Lord, and I meet this incredible man of God who loves me for me and is like 100% supportive of, of wanting to move forward in life together. And so Tyler and I get married and we start having children, and it's just this beautiful thing. And when I'm sitting with this mentor, and this is like really one of the first times that I've been able to really share. And as I share it out loud, she says, this is such good news. And I'm like,
who's she talking to?
Yeah, I was like, I thought it was just me and you, but okay. She's like, Wendi, truth is where shame goes to die.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
And that phrase has stuck with me.
Yeah, I've heard it several times.
Yeah.
Because now, anytime I share my story, it's not about what happened to me, right? It's about the truth of what happened, that we take the shame out of it and we can turn it to give glory, because God rescued me and redeemed me and restored me to this amazing, to become this amazing woman of God that he had always planned. He'd always wanted, he always desired that in me. And I just, took us on a little detour, but he never abandoned that. He always wanted that for me. And so being able to find that path again was amazing. Then I meet Jack and Sheila Harper, and we are like instant best friends. and
But anytime soon.
We were.
I think we spent like 3-4 days together, and we didn't plan it. Like, it just happened that way. And you guys came and shared, Sheila, you shared your testimony at an event I was at, and then you shared at our church the next day, and then you were at a minister's retreat with us for the next 2 days after that. And so every time you guys spoke, I heard a different piece, which just kind of jump out to me each time.
Wow.
And Sheila, that was the first time I came to you at your booth, and I was like, I need the book. And like, I think worship had already started. Like, most people were already in the room, and I kind of slipped back out, and you set me up with my amazing mentor, Sonia Wiley.
Yes.
And she took me through the program, and then I like find freedom, and I'm like, wait, I don't have to be behind the scenes anymore. And the Lord restored my worth back to me. And it wasn't that he had ever taken it away. It was that I had never forgiven myself.
Yeah. That's the hard part sometimes.
Oh, I had asked for forgiveness from him like so many times. So many times. I'm like, Lord, I know you forgave me, but can you just forgive me again? But I never forgave myself. And so.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So that's the full circle moment of that,
Well, I remember getting you hooked up with Sonia, and she walked with you online. You guys met online. Like,
Yep.
During that time, as you worked, because you went through the study, like week after week, you did one chapter a week, you would do your homework, and then you and Sonia would get together and go over the homework. What was the hardest part of the recovery? What was that moment that you were like, because we all have that moment that it's like, oh, this is like an obstacle. I don't know if I can crawl over this.
Yeah.
What was that moment for you?
So when did I throw my book across the room? Is that what you're asking?
In the indication.
The forgiveness chapters. So there's a section where we talk about forgiveness, and you guys break it out into 2-3 chapters. Man, that was so hard to forgive the other side of that choice. It really was. It was hard to forgive people that I thought should have stepped in sooner. Like, why did you let me get to this place? You saw that I was spiraling. Why did you let me get to this place? Why didn't you ask sooner? It's so easy to become so self-righteous and see it on everybody else, right? And you're not seeing it in yourself. And so I think I had just lived there for so long and reading those chapters, and God showing me that forgiveness was so crucial to my healing process. And one of the most important things I learned was about sorrow. I didn't know that was an emotion.
Wow.
And that was one of my favorite pieces of chapter 3 or 4. I can't remember. We're in one of those chapters, where we go over the different emotions. I was like, oh, this is what I've been feeling. I'm like, because how can you miss somebody you've never met?
Right.
And so there was just that sorrow and longing there. And so once I was able to identify it, then you pray into that, and you can recover from those things, and you know how to pick it up and switch it around. But if you don't know what it is, you're like, you just keep going.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, I've got another question.
Go ahead.
Fellow. I keep thinking of questions I want to answer. Ask you. At the end, when you went through the study with Sonia, at the end, we have what's called the Night of Honor. Explain this real quickly, what a Night of Honor is, but then will you tell about your Night of Honor? Because I love your Night of Honor. About that.
Yes. So Night of Honor is one of my favorite parts. Whenever I have the privilege of walking this journey with a participant, at the very end, after they get through all 10 chapters, we take time to honor them, right? It's like a little graduation ceremony, but also we take time to honor the child. for most of us, myself included, this was the first time that I had acknowledged my daughter, Bailey Lynn. And it was the first time that I had grieved her or felt the space to be able to do that. So it's not a funeral, right? It's like a celebration of they had a life and they have a spirit and it lives with Jesus and heaven. And we celebrate that and we identify this child. And so it's just such a great moment for them, for the participant. When I did mine, I was telling Sonia, I was like, so is this just like me and you, or can like I involve other people? And I mentioned to you before, I'm really close with my family, and I had an opportunity to share with them what, my full testimony of what I had walked through and going through SaveOne. And they are seeing real time change. I mean, they're like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Like, we have you back. Right. Like, you're back. And like, this is great. And we need more of you at this pace, like, yes. And so, my sister, she lives down in South Carolina, and then my parents and my husband were all included on the Zoom call. And as a family, we all celebrated Bailey Lynn that day. So not only like my daughter, but my parents' granddaughter and my sister's niece, we were able to just honor her. And Tyler he has just been such a rock through all of this. It wasn't his daughter. And we didn't know each other. We weren't in a relationship. I know most people are like nosy and want to know that. It wasn't Tyler.
I try to get in their head. Like,
yeah. They all want to know. I'm like, you can just ask. It wasn't him. Anyway, so he has been so supportive and has just, I can see, like, we always talk about that if she would have been here, it would have been his daughter. Like, he would have adopted her. He would have just welcomed her right in. That's just who he is, So he's been so supportive of all, and he really does feel like he has a part in it, because he does, right?
I've been amazed that every time he is at one of our events, he's jumping in, he's running.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving chairs.
Yeah.
Like, doing everything that we need him to do. Like, he's not backing for something. I want everybody to know this stuff. He is like, no, we're going to allow what the enemy meant for evil to turn to good. And him supporting you is what helps blossom everything in you. I love it.
It's, again, #blessed. I mean, seriously.
When you start having your kids, I got a question.
Go ahead.
When you start having your kids, your second son had some difficulties.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that and what they tried to get you to do? Who were helping you and that? So explain that to me real quick.
Yeah. So it's actually, this is crazy. So Tyler and I have been married for there's like a pre-story to that even, about 2.5 years into our marriage. We're like, okay, family time. And so we, are trying to have a family. Well, I got pregnant, and at about 5.5 weeks gestation, we'd already told my parents and his parents, we're like, it's really early, but we're so excited. And at 5.5 weeks, I miscarried. The enemy came after me, because at that point I was rededicating my life and I'm living for the Lord, but I'm not healed. And so that trauma in me was unreal. I didn't know what to do with that, because immediately I was like, I'm not going to have kids, and Tyler is going to have to pay for this. It wasn't his mistake. And Lord, why would you do that to him? It's not his fault, and he still wants a family, and now he's chosen me, and I can't do it, and we're never going to have our dreams fulfilled, and all the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, my mind was under constant attack. I will have you to know that exactly 1 month later, I was pregnant again.
Wow.
And that baby will turn 11 next week.
That's awesome.
So our first son was just, God was redeeming and doing miracles, even though I wasn't acknowledging them as that. Looking back, I'm like, oh Lord, you redeemed that moment so beautifully.
Yeah.
Like, you were like,
hand on you still. Even if we're despicable and so undeserving, and we've got to pay for it. And there's grace. And it's great.
So much.
Y'all got comprehension.
So much.
Yeah.
I love it.
So then we were like, oh, this is amazing. And we start, we have our Jackson and it's great. And then he turned 1 and a couple months later, I'm like, I think I'm pregnant. And so I am on birth control. I am literally, this is Tyler and I tease about all the time. When I told him that I was pregnant, I handed him an empty pack of birth control pills and a positive pregnancy test. And I was like, so like, we knew we wanted more kids. It wasn't that, like, we wanted a big family, but just maybe not that close. So Jackson was born at the beginning of 2014 and Camden was born at the end of 2015. So we literally had babies like back to back. Yeah, but it was exciting. And we were like, all right, here we go. And so the same week that we found out we were having another boy, we also found out through a quad screen blood test that we had elevated levels for an open neural tube defect. And like, I don't even know what that means, right? Like, that's a lot of language, a lot of medical language that means nothing to me. And so we had to meet with a genetics counselor, and basically what they were looking for was a hole in our baby's spine. And the elevated levels showed that there was spinal fluid leaking somewhere into the amniotic fluid and then into my bloodstream. And so what happened was they diagnosed Camden with spina bifida when I was 18 weeks gestation. Well, this launched us into a whole nother realm because Tyler's family nor my family had any other people. We didn't even know about spina bifida. Nobody in our families had it or had experiences with it. So we're doing all we can to learn about it, but not Google it because we don't do that.
Yeah. No, you
don't Google
want to
it. In all of the research and different appointments and things that we were having, because then I was like launched onto a whole different track. They asked me to go see several specialists. They did confirm that he did have a hole. So it kind of like, okay, what do we do now? And they told us that there were hospitals, 3 at the time, Vanderbilt and 1 in California, and then CHOP, which is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. They could do an in utero surgery, and they would go in and sew up the baby's back, and you would still, all that done in utero. So you would still be pregnant and the baby would still stay in and the due date would be later down the road. It was incredible. And when we heard about it, we were like, no, absolutely not. Like, are you crazy? Tyler was working full time. I'm working full time. We have a 1.5-year-old. Like, there's no way mom is doing this, right? Like no. We had an appointment and we went to a neurosurgeon, and they had done some imaging of Camden's brain at the time. We were about 20-ish weeks gestation at this point. So we're halfway. Wow. And the neurologist, in all his bedside manner, looked at us and was like, there's no gray matter in your baby's brain. So again, because we don't know what that means, right? We're like, okay. And he's like, your baby's brain is not developing. There's so much spinal fluid in their hydrocephalus in his brain that it's clogging all the areas, and there's nowhere for this gray matter to form. And then he just kind of left it there.
Oh my goodness.
So Tyler and I vividly remember leaving that office in complete silence. Complete silence. My girl, there's been a very few times. This was one of them.
That's unreal.
We walk down, we get in our car. We're sitting there. We look at each other, both of us, just tears streaming down our face. We're like, this is overwhelming. And he goes, when? And I go, we have to go, don't we? And he was like, yeah, we have to go. So we made an appointment, and a week later, we were in Philadelphia. We did an evaluation where both Camden and I had to qualify. So him as a fetus and myself as a young woman both had qualifications in order to be able to have the surgery. About 3 in every 10 women qualify. So there was a 30% chance that we're going to be able to do this, right? They do a fetal MRI, which has me laying in an MRI machine for an hour and a half. We did a 2.5 hour ultrasound. I mean, they went over every single centimeter of that baby. Like every single inch of him was covered. They were just trying to make sure, were there additional heart defects, kidneys, lungs, whatever, all the things. Again, we're like 22, 23 weeks gestation at this point. So he is this tiny little nugget. And we passed a psych evaluation. Yes, we did. Like, so team. No, team. We were nervous. We were like, oh. And so then they sit us down. There's a full room of doctors, like full room. And they're putting all these papers in front of us. And they're like, okay, here's the deal. You qualify for this surgery. However, you can go across the bridge to Camden, New Jersey and have a termination. And so Tyler and I had a moment where we were like, that's not even an option, right? Like we don't, and I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and we both had this moment where we could hopefully plant a seed in some of those doctors and nurses that were in the room and say, it's not an option for us. And we just kind of moved on. Like, I don't know if they were ready to move on, but I was like, it's not an option. Tyler and I both had to sign papers that said that during the surgery, they would save mom first. So we both had to sign that we were okay, that if something went wrong, we would potentially lose our baby. And then Tyler also had to sign that there would be potential that I could lose my life. And it's this really surreal, moment. But you do anything for your kids, right? Like it's crazy. I don't know how we had the strength. I do know how, but at the moment, I'm like, how do we do this? Well, we go through the surgery and everything came out really great. Camden's hole was at the L3 level. And so they told us he's not going to walk. He's definitely going to have some type of assistance, probably like a crutch, if not a wheelchair situation. So
he put that to rest.
Right.
Yeah. Really? And they were like, he, is going to be socially probably not able to really hang, and he will always be, he'll have an IEP, he'll be in some type of learning, situation. I mean, just all the things. It was just they have to. I get that. Like there's so many liability, so much liability in this moment. But the diagnosis they gave was very dire. It was just like, don't expect too much. He'll probably live with you forever and like, good luck. Well, anybody that knows Cam,
right,
like the most social out of all three of my boys.
And is he on the swim team?
He's on the swim team. He plays basketball. He loves music. He is in regular education classes. Like he's in with all of his classmates. He loves Sheila. You're his bestie. I mean, it was like, but I think it's important for us to realize that in 2025, there is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. I hate that it's there.
Yeah.
But there is a choice. So ignoring it is not helpful. As we can see from past testimonies, and we can learn that there is going to be a choice. There are going to be doctors and people who are telling you, or you can terminate every time.
Yeah.
So how are we?
It's going to cost you $300. This is going to cost you $30,000.
Correct.
Like,
yes.
Yeah. Which one would you choose?
Exactly.
So what we're doing as a team and what SaveOne does is put the value back on life, which I just think is so incredible and crucial for people to understand. The world does not put emphasis on life. That's why it's so easy to choose death.
Exactly.
Right? Like obviously the enemy would have us choose death over and over and over again. But when we put the emphasis back on life and knowing that life comes from the Father, like that is the moment. That is the key. And if we can bring that back into our churches, which I hate to say it, I hate to say that it left, but we gotta bring it back.
Yeah.
And the emphasis can't.
Yeah. I think that.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, from our travels, it's like they're open, they're willing to talk about it, and they let somebody from the outside come in and talk about it. You know, it's like somebody from the outside can introduce it, and it's not all on them.
I think, Wendy, I think everybody has an opinion about the issue of life. Everybody has an opinion, but so few have walked both sides of it the way you have. You've earned your opinion, and you did it with bravery. And
That's
so the story is absolutely compelling, and it needs to be told over and over and over. So if you're a pastor listening to this, contact Wendi at SaveOne.org.
Read all about her on her website.
Read about her, but she can come and talk to your church over and over. So tell me, Wendi, let's shift gears for just a little bit. Tell me, what is your favorite thing to do with SaveOne? What's the thing you enjoy the most?
Oh, man. I love getting to connect with the participants, right? And watching them go from this place of they can't even hardly look up at you the first week or two. And then by week 10, they're smiling and just the joy that radiates through them. And I have the privilege of leading some trainings sometimes. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Dude, I've heard the trainings. That's one of my favorite things that we get to do at SaveOne.
Yes.
Is train leaders, because it's like the light bulb goes off and they're like, I don't have to talk about politics. And they're realizing like this is just part of the church. It's scalable. It's repeatable. It's just I've loved that part about training. Is seeing that knowledge come to fruition.
Yeah. What a great way to be a part of the pro-life movement, right? Like, because that's absolutely what it is helping people on the other side of abortion is just as important as helping them on the front side, right? Like, I mean, none of us on this podcast want anybody to choose abortion, right? Like that. No, but if they do, we can help. Either way, we got you.
That they never choose it again,
right?
But they go take their story and use it for good.
Yes.
So, what's it like being a missions associate?
Oh man,
considering this,
it's awesome. I love to travel, and I love to travel prior to this, but now I get to go to churches and conferences and all of these places. I get to meet new people, which I'm all about, and I get to have my favorite part, which I think might be some of y'all's too, is the conversations at the booth.
Yes, the conversation at the booth.
Yeah,
great. When they're standing there and they're realizing, like, I can talk about this.
Yeah.
That place, I can really tell.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they've never told a person, but they're telling me, a total stranger, over a booth with all their church people walking around. That they would have never dreamed they would ever do that. Yeah. But it's just finding that soft landing, that place that feels safe, that that somebody relates to their story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so cool. I had the privilege of talking with a mom one time, and her daughter was not only considering abortion, but had set an appointment. And so we started emailing back and forth, and she would CC her daughter on some of the emails that we were sending. And so I just started trying to speak into that a little bit and just saying, hey, you think a baby is going to ruin your life, but abortion will actually take its toll. And you think a baby will do this, that, or the other, but abortion will do this, and this, right? And just trying to help her see that there are other perspectives and the world is saying do this, but there's another side to it. And so just begin to speak as much truth over the situation as I could, sharing parts of my story as I felt led to. And we were conversing several weeks, and then it went kind of silent. And the day came for the appointment. I knew when the appointment was, and I knew the time of day. And I just put my prayer people on it, right? I was like, y'all, today you just have to pray. I don't know what's going to happen. And it's a different time zone, and there's a lot of other factors, and we just have to pray. And so I didn't hear anything, and the time came and went, and I didn't know if I would ever know what truly, would happen. And we were sitting at dinner that night, and the boys are, and I have my phone dings, and I look at it, and I jump up from the table. I'm like,
that's great.
My boys are like, what's happening? And Tyler's like, okay, like, what do I do? And so, because it's a very confidential, situation. A lot of times, a lot of the participants we meet with and stuff, it's just a very confidential thing. So I'm like, been able to tell you, but I've been working with this girl and she was going to go to abortion and she didn't. She chose life and it's amazing. And oh my gosh. And so that happening so early on in my switch over to the SaveOne team gave me such energy. And like just the Lord instantly like showed me.
Solidified.
Yeah.
SaveOne. Like, good job. Like, you're good. You did it. Yeah. But it was you need that. You need to be able to see that God is using your testimony for his glory, and that it's not wasted time. It's not, he can turn every moment for good, right? Like what the enemy meant for evil, he can turn for good.
That's right.
So,
I think we could keep talking for hours.
Oh my gosh, for hours.
We stop recording.
And I think Wendi can preach for an hour because and she can go.
Yes.
You can. If you have questions for Wendi or you want to reach out to her, and you can read her story on SaveOne.org. Yes. And then also you can find her on Instagram at Wendi_SaveOne.
Yes. You guys know we have a love life tip of the day every episode. And Wendi has shared her love life tip of the day, which goes like this. A dream or vision becomes a goal when you set a date. When you set a date to it. I'm sorry. When you set a date to it. So it's the perfect opportunity to just take a moment and think about those dreams and goals and setting a date to it. Because it's easy to just fling out there, well, I'm going to run a 10K. But until you sign up for a 10K and they just coming, you're still an elusive goal out there. So I love that. They help you love life on a greater level. Everything I do at this podcast is about loving life on a greater level. So thank you for tuning in this month. If you're enjoying this podcast, please like, share, comment, and review it. Your feedback is the world to us, and it helps other people hear these great messages like what Wendi has shared with us today. I can't thank you enough, my friend.
Yes.
You are brave, and I love you, and I appreciate you being on here.
Yep.
So be watching for our next episode, helping you love life on a greater level. See you next month.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for being a part of our audience today on the Love Life podcast. Please share it with your friends and check back often for the next podcast or subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.